All right. We've got some online people with us too. Can y'all hear me online? All right. Somebody's texting me. Yes. Okay. All right. How's everybody doing? Good. Y'all waterlogged yet? I know we're not supposed to complain about the rain, are we?
I've been praying for it.
I've been watching Clarkson Farms. If y'all haven't watched that series yet, I love it. Clarkson Farms. And so Jeremy Clarkson is a British guy. He does Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Great Britain, but he also spent years and years doing car shows, which my boys and I loved watching. Well, he kind of retired from all of that and decided to start working his 1,000-acre farm that he had worked for him since 2008. So he knows nothing about farming. And so this series is a 21-year-old farmer 21-year-old farmer teaching this almost 70-year-old guy how to farm. And it is hilarious, but it's also sad because of all of the regulations that Great Britain has. You can't move dirt from one side of your farm to the other without getting government approval. It's bad, but it's very funny. It is very, very funny. But it seems that since they've recorded it, the worst problem is that they have the worst weather on record, either the wettest planting season or the driest growing season. It's never been right in 3 years. So, but the language is bad, but in Britain they don't have the stick up with language that some of us do here in the States, but it's becoming more and more frequent to hear that as part of regular conversation. So this week, we are going to move into the future part of Daniel's revelation. So God gave him a vision and an answer to Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And Daniel not only provided the revelation of that dream back to Nebuchadnezzar, who couldn't remember actually what the dream was, but also the interpretation of what that dream was. So if you remember, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream and he woke up and he was very troubled by it, but he couldn't remember what the dream was. So he called all of his wise men together, and instead of just asking them, interpret this dream that I had, he said, what was this dream that I had? And they said, no one can do that except the gods. And so Daniel gets called, and Daniel comes to him after a prayer, tells him, this is your dream, and that this is what it means. So what had the king seen? Okay, he did, but what was the image that he saw? He saw this weird statue, and the statue is made of different things. So we know that the head of the statue was made of gold. We know that the chest and arms were silver. So as we're going, it's becoming less precious. The belly and the thighs were bronze. When we get to the legs, iron, and then the feet, clay and iron. So we didn't talk about the feet last week. This week is the feet. Okay. So each of these four metals that he saw, the main part of the body, represented what? Gold was the kingdom of Babylon, and that is the kingdom that Nebuchadnezzar is king of. Babylon was a kingdom from 626 BC until 538 BC. Then the silver represented the next kingdom. As Daniel was giving his interpretation of the dream, he told Nebuchadnezzar, the golden head, that is you, O king. There is no one above you, because he was an emperor. He was a king of kings. Then the silver represented the next kingdom. Actually, Nebuchadnezzar gets beaten and Persia takes over as the empire. And that's from 538 BC all the way to 334 BC. And then the next kingdom, which is represented by bronze, would be the Greece era. So the Grecian era was 334 BC to 146 BC. And then at 146 BC, this Iron Kingdom takes over. Now, iron is less precious, but it's also the hardest of everything that came before it. And this empire was the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire lasted from 146 BC to 476 AD. That is a hard empire, okay? So it stuck around for a very long time. The interesting thing is, who conquered the Roman Empire? No one. Because of how large it was and its own corruption, it couldn't stand up under its own weight, and it finally dissolved. And that's what Daniel was talking about in his vision to Nebuchadnezzar. So that's as far as I got last week. Any questions about any of that stuff? Online? No hands raised? All right, we're cool. All right, so Daniel chapter 2, starting in verse 41. He says, just that as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. So basically, he's saying here, there's going to be remnants of the Roman Empire that's still going to be at play, but it's going to be nowhere near what it was when it was an empire that was in control. This will be a divided kingdom, yet it will have some strength of the iron in it, even as you saw the iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. How well does iron mix with clay? It doesn't. It doesn't. So the feet of iron and clay, this is the breakup of the Roman Empire. This is what would be modern Europe. Instead of having one empire, now we've got a whole bunch of different countries. And each of those countries have their own kings, their own governments, their own taxation system. Everything is separate again. And so that would be 476 AD, which is the official fall of the Western Roman Empire, all the way to today. Okay, so we've got city-states and nations. So what did Daniel predict about the future attempts to unite these divided nations? According to verse 43, they will not remain united to one another. And then also in verse 33, just as iron does not mix with clay. Okay, so I was watching the Olympics, and it was really neat. In some cases, you've got a situation where Spain does really good on the vault, and all of the French people are yay, but China does really good on the rings, and it's silent. So we've got some unity in Europe, but it's not enough unity to be expressed to the rest of the world. But if you get like Germany, that's a European country, and they do something good on the floor exercise, it's only the Germans that are hollering. Nobody else is going to holler. There's disunity also in Europe. Okay. And this is the way that it has been for 1,540 years now. The countries in Europe cannot get together to get anything done. We thought that the EU was going to be so wonderful, and it's falling apart also. Y'all remember about, I don't know, 10 years ago now, with all of the economic unrest in Greece? That was the beginning of the fall of the European Union. And something else you hear about on Clarkson Farms is Brexit. What's Brexit about? Yeah, that was Britain separating from the European Union. So they tried to unite, even economically, and it just won't hold. The reason why is that is fulfillment of the prophecy that Daniel made. No attempt to unite Europe is going to last until God. Okay. So it's not just the unrest of Israel and the Arab nations. There's also prophecy that affects Europe. And there's prophecy that affects us as well. So Daniel 2:44, it says, in the time of those kings, which kings? The divided Europe kings, okay? The God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of the mountain, but not by human hands. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true, and its interpretation is trustworthy. This is huge. These two verses right here shows the enormity of Yahweh God. Okay. And it shows not only is Yahweh God going to set up a kingdom at the fall of the Roman Empire, which is exactly what happened. Around 476 AD, when the Western Roman Empire fell, there was still the Holy Roman Empire that was standing. And the Holy Roman Empire was church, even though it gets corrupted over years until we got the Great Reformation in the 15 and 1600s. It's still the church. And it is the only part of the Roman Empire that still exists, the Holy Roman Empire, the church. But the other part of this is that what did this rock as big as a mountain destroy? All the prior kingdoms. So the way that Daniel was presenting this to Nebuchadnezzar, it made sense to him. Oh, another kingdom is going to eventually take this kingdom out. And then another kingdom is eventually going to take that kingdom out, because that was the natural order of things. Kingdoms conquer kingdoms, right? But then he gets to this part here and he took a major turn, because now he's not saying that a kingdom killed the previous kingdom. He's saying God took it out. God took out all the kingdoms. This is a dangerous spot for Daniel to be in now. First of all, does Nebuchadnezzar worship Yahweh God? Not at all. He is a holy man, but they have many, many, many gods, right? So now he's saying there is a God above all gods and above you, emperor, that actually has been controlling the rise and fall of these kingdoms. This is a big deal. Okay. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. And then this last sentence, the dream is true and its interpretation is trustworthy. So he didn't wait for Nebuchadnezzar to say, wow, yeah, that was my dream. Yeah, that was it. Mic drop. Yep, that is it. So what happened in the image in the closing scene in verse 45? This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands. A rock that crushed the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. Okay? What is this rock, do you think, that's cut out of a mountain? That's Jesus himself. Yeah, that rock cut out of a mountain. There's an old hymn. It's called There's a Rock That's Higher Than I. And that rock that's higher than I think actually Kevin referred to it 2 weeks ago. It was either him or Danny last week talking about that rock no, it was Danny last week, Psalm 61. In that prayer, David wanted to be placed on a rock that was higher than him. And that's a reference to Jesus. Okay, so that's what's going on right here. All right, so we've got the gold, kingdom of Babylon. Silver, the kingdom of Medo-Persia. Bronze, that's Greece. Iron, it's Rome. And then we've got iron and clay, which is modern Europe. Then we've got this wholly different way that the world is going to be operated. And it is the New World Order, way that God intended it, okay? Not the New World Order that's in politics and stuff, right? In the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom. Okay, so this is the real New World Order. So this is a kingdom that God sets up. People are part of it, but they're not running it. Remember that part in the verse that says it will not be left to people? That means people aren't going to be running this kingdom. God's going to be running this kingdom. And then also, this kingdom is eternal, forever and ever. So Daniel's long-term predictions to Nebuchadnezzar were actually fulfilled. So that's why I said in my note yesterday that we looked at Daniel's future prophecy of our past. So now that we look back in time, looking back at history, we can absolutely see that all of these predictions came true. I didn't even tell you all the coolest part. Daniel's prophecies were found as part of the Dead Sea Scrolls. They weren't as complete as Isaiah. We got all of Isaiah. But in those prophecies of Daniel, which were dated 1000 BC, this was there. And so all of the people that said, oh, it was written after all of these events, that's why it's so accurate. No, it was proven true because of the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Babylon would fall, according to Daniel's prediction. It did, 538 BC. Persia would fall. It did, to Greece in 334 BC. Greece would fall. It did, to Rome in 146 BC. And then Rome would break up and divide. And it did in 476 AD. Now, because 5 things were predicted, 4 of them have already come to pass just as they were predicted. What can we say about the 5th prediction? It's gonna happen too. And the 5th prediction, he claimed that the division would remain until the end of time. So you're never going to see European unity. It's not going to happen. He said this dream is certain and its interpretation is true. Now, considering the fact that all 5 events that have occurred, the 5th one is still occurring, and it occurred in the sequence that was foretold in the dream, we can have confidence that the 6th event, the one that hasn't happened yet, is coming. It is the coming of the everlasting kingdom. And just like Daniel said, it is sure to take place. The dream is certain and the interpretation is sure. We good? Okay, so that's applying logic. A, B, C, D, that all happened. E, it is happening right now. So F, it's going to happen. So that's where we put all of our eggs, in that basket. All right. Let's go back to verses 34 and 35. While you were watching, so this is Daniel talking to Nebuchadnezzar, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay. So what's that tell us? So we know that Jesus is the rock. When is he going to strike? during our time. Okay. So all the people that say that, oh, excuse me, there may be one more. Oh, sorry. So all of the people that talk about this pre-millennial, post-millennial, amillennial stuff, which we will be getting to, the people that say that we're already in the end times, no, we're not. We're in part 5 of 6. We're not quite there yet. 6, that last kingdom, is what's coming. We're still during the time of the European Union not able to stick together. Does that make sense? Okay, you got the squinchy face, so I'm making sure you're tracking with me here. All right. So now that is important to understand. And this is why people have such a hard time with Revelation. Without using Daniel as your timeline for Revelation, then it raises all of these other questions. It could be that Jesus already came, the second coming already happened, and now we're all going to have to go through the tribulation. We're all going to have to suffer these 7 years. We're all going to have to wait for God to wrap it all up at the end because it hasn't happened yet, or it's already happened. And that's not right. Use Daniel's timeline. We're in part 5 of 6 right now. We're in the European Union time that Daniel foretold. You tracking? That's important. It'll be more important later. All right. So verse 35, then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces. They became like chaff on the threshing floor in the summer. The winds swept them away without leaving a trace. Remember, Saddam Hussein tried to rebuild Babylon. How'd that work out? It didn't. God won't allow it. It's not going to happen. But the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. So what's he saying?
Jesus is going to rule
from the whole world. Jesus is going to rule, and he's going to rule the whole earth. That's what Daniel is saying here. Look at verse 44. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. That sounds familiar. Nor will it be left to another people. So that means there's not going to be another kingdom that's going to take it over like the rest of these. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of the mountain, but not by human hands. What does that mean? A kingdom not built by human hands? That's God's kingdom. A rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. So now Daniel has said the same thing twice. He said it in verses 34 and 35, and now he's saying it again in 44 and 45. Why is he repeating himself? Trying to make sure that Nebuchadnezzar understands this isn't your normal succession of kingdoms. This is something bigger, and it is a God that is greater than all of your supposed gods. Okay, that's in control of this whole thing. So this is the world kingdom of the future. I had to really redact my notes on this one because I'm going to save the Revelation stuff for Revelation, because this ties in just perfectly with what goes on in Revelation. So according to these sets of verses here, what did Daniel say to show that God will one day take complete control? It says, and in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom, a new kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other kings, people. Okay. It shall break in pieces and consume all of these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Okay. So this is that new world order, because all the kings of old has ever known is I've got to hold on to my kingdom as hard as I can. I've got to watch out to make sure it's not taken over from without or within, because that's the way it always is done. Even Israel. happened to them. What did Daniel say to show that God will one day take complete control of the world? And that stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This has nothing to do with conquering. It just says that this stone, cut with no hands, out of the mountain, will become as big as the whole earth. Okay, so he takes it over really without World War III, IV, or wherever we're going to be at the time. Okay, it just becomes. What, or will this kingdom be introduced by political coalition or military force or United Nations resolution or other human methods? It said not of human hands, right?
But the evil one's gonna counterfeit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the rest of the story.
Yeah.
You watched while a stone was cut out, not by human hands. So none of our political constructs, social constructs, economic constructs are at play. This is something totally new, totally different, totally unexpected by the rest of the world. You saw that the stone was cut out, according to verse 45, but not by human hands. He repeats that twice. All right. So in what ways is God's coming kingdom completely different from the others before it? Which of these gets checked? Will it never be destroyed? Check. Not left to any other people? Check. It consumes all the other kingdoms. Check. And it will stand forever. Check. Forever is a long time. I didn't put all the above. No, I wanted you to put 4 check marks in there. All right. So now we got this new world kingdom. Let's shift into the new world ruler. I had to put one piece of Revelation in here. Revelation 11:15 says, the 7th angel sounded, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Messiah, Savior. Okay. So all of the leading prophets of the Bible times gave the same message that Daniel did regarding God's coming kingdom. Now, the prophet John the Revelator here, actually said that the king of this kingdom is Jesus, Messiah. Some of your translations say Christ, some say Messiah. Remember, Christ and Messiah are the same words, different languages. Okay. Christ is going to be Latin. Messiah is going to be Hebrew, but it means the same thing. All right. And he shall reign how long? Forever and ever. And that's in fulfillment of the Davidic covenant, because God promised King David, no, I'm not going to let you build my temple, but I'm going to raise you and your descendants into a kingdom that will last forever and ever. And Jesus is in the line of succession to King David. And so that's another prophecy that gets fulfilled. Okay? All right. Will the coming Christ be welcomed by all of Earth's people? Welcomed? No. Okay? But it does say in Matthew 24:30, then all of the tribes of the earth will mourn. Okay? Because this isn't the way we've done it before. Right? The common words that we hear. That's not how we do things. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Is this the second coming? No.
Okay. Trick question.
It was a trick question. This gets its own special name, and it's called the glorious appearing. Okay? The glorious appearing happens before the second coming. The glorious appearing fulfills what the angels told the people when Jesus resurrected and he was preaching to everybody. And then he gives the Great Commission and then is raised up to the clouds out of their sight. And the angels tell the people, why are you mourning? He's coming back in the same way. And so he disappeared in the clouds. So that means he's going to reappear in the clouds. That's the glorious appearing. And that will be more clear when we get into Revelation. Okay. What does he do at the glorious appearing? Yeah, that's the rapture. That's when he calls all of his people to join him. Okay. We all go to heaven. We all get our glorified bodies. Then we get the millennial kingdom that happens. All of this will be clear when the timeline gets put together. All right.
Those that continue to mourn that stay here.
Well, it's not just because of the tribulation time. It's because, what do you think all of the people that are in power now are going to do when all that power is snatched away? Yeah. It's not going to be a fun time for those that like the way that people like things now, the way that people are getting rich now because of corruption and extortion and all of that stuff. All that just dramatically ends. Okay. All of our comfort zones are gone.
Is that then tribulation?
No. Yeah, it's still not. It's a change, but it's not tribulation. Okay. That'll actually be the millennial reign when Jesus is in complete control of the earth and everything for 1,000 years. And what's our role as Christians during that time? We're going to be judges. And we're going to be put in charge of declaring judgment on those who don't follow Jesus for 1,000 years.
Okay, I got to go home and read.
Or you can just wait. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that has yet to occur, and it has to happen in order. Yeah.
Tribulations after the 1,000 years.
8 hasn't been locked away yet.
Right. Right. And that's just a temporary locking during the 1,000 years. Yeah. So there's a lot that has to happen. All right. So in the days of which kings did Daniel mean? So note which particular part of the image the stone struck. When the stone struck the image, what did it hit? Okay, the feet. Okay, so it hit in times like these. All right. So it didn't hit the gold, although the gold did get destroyed. It didn't hit the silver of the chest and arms. It didn't hit the bronze belly and thighs, and it did not hit the legs of iron. All of those did get destroyed to the point that nothing was left of them. That's huge too, because if the Holy Roman Empire is still alive today as the Catholic Church, when Jesus comes back, what does he do to the Catholic Church? Blows it out of the water. There will be nothing left. Okay. And so he hits the feet of iron and clay. That's our current divided world. So Daniel finished this interpretation to Nebuchadnezzar by saying, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain and its interpretation is sure. So did Nebuchadnezzar believe God? Yes. Did he believe in God? No. But when Daniel gave him the dream and its interpretation, what did Nebuchadnezzar do? He worshiped. Well, it doesn't say who the object of worship is, but he did worship because this was the dream that he had, and he knew and believed that this was the interpretation, the proper interpretation of that dream. So Nebuchadnezzar believed God, but it wasn't a conversion experience. He did not believe in God. So the question for us today is, how comfortable are you in the world today? And how are you going to react when it all changes overnight? It's gonna. All right, so in review, reactions to the prophecy. So was the king doubtful? Were the astrologers slightly wrong in their interpretation? Did the king believe in Daniel's interpretation? Okay, it was definitely C here. There was no doubt about Daniel's interpretation, and the astrologers didn't even come close. The stone that struck the image struck on its feet of iron and clay. And the destruction by the stone meant what? That the earth would be smashed to pieces by an asteroid or meteor? Yeah, see, the man's kingdoms would be brought to an end by God. God's everlasting kingdom, is it going to be only in heaven, only on earth, or on earth and throughout the whole universe? Yeah, it's going to be everywhere, which kind of messes up the Mormons now, because the Mormons think that it's only this earth that gets destroyed and they get their own worlds and they get to continue. Yeah. Sorry. So Daniel's interpretation of the image, was it certain and sure, 50% okay, proved by history to be somewhat wrong? Oh no, history has proven it to be absolutely correct. Bonus. All right, this is the toughie. So when Christ returns, he will first appear where?
B.
Now you know, it's B. Yeah, the glorious appearing is different than the second coming. They both happen at the end times, but they are not one and the same. Okay? Now, when he comes back, the second coming, that answer is A. He comes back and lays feet on Mount Zion, which is in the desert in the Middle East. All right? So next time, which will not be next week, it'll be the week after. Next week I'm preaching, and I'll be bringing you a message on rules, rulers, and relationships. Okay? So I'll be bouncing you back and forth in the Old and the New Testaments next week. So, but when we come back in class, we're going to be going back to Daniel and talking about something in history. So it's going to be closer to the children's Bible stories for adults. Okay. And that one's they wouldn't bend, they wouldn't bow, they wouldn't burn. Who are we going to be talking about? Yep. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's who we're going to be talking about.
Or what the coffee shop, what was the connection?
Yeah, that was funny. Stacy sent that to me, and I'm like, oh, I got to share that with the rest of the class.
Three in the fire pit turned up hotter than normal, and then the fourth was Jesus with them.
Yep, very good. Very good. All right, cool. So that's all I've got for you this week. Do we we have any questions with anything? Oh, somebody's saying something. I can't read it. So I get to have more eye surgery Thursday. So hopefully, though, this will be the end, because I can't see anything. Stacy's tired of me not being able to read, because I get something, I say, here, read this. So they're going to be doing a laser guided cataract surgery. And it's really cool what they do. When they did cataract surgeries in the past, they actually had to open up the eye and physically remove the lens and sew in a new lens and all of that. This procedure is totally different. It's about as quick as LASIK surgery. It's about 5 minutes. and it's almost hands-free. And they use a laser to open up the front of the eye, and they use a laser to bust up the lens, and they pull it out. And then they've got a special lens that actually is on spring clips, and they compress it and put it in there and let it go, and it sits right in place. Fold the flap back down, and they say, okay.
It should be to your vision needs.
I'm pretty excited about that. So I'll only need reading glasses after that.
We helped James get that for his old James. He had, his cataracts were so thick and hard that they had to do that. And he did great.
Yep. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm just another one. So I'll be out of commission Thursday and Friday, but
If you read license plates on the way home and praising God, it'll be great.
yeah. So they said that they're going to do both eyes. No, they said it'll be 2 weeks between. 2 weeks between. But I'm like, well, can I swim? No.
Look,
Goggles. Yeah. I got my swimming goggles. So, well, I'm leaving on the 26th for a cruise.
but after,
So I'm having the surgery on the 2nd. The second or on the 1st. The second surgery is on the 15th. And then I'm leaving on the cruise on the 26th. And we're doing things we've never done before. We're going to be swimming with the dolphins. Never swam with the dolphins before. And we're going to be taking Bobby and Jacob to a cenote. They've not done that before.
boys are going.
Yep.
Awesome.
So cenote, which is an underground swimming pool, basically. It's a natural limestone cavern that's full of fresh water. And so it's pretty neat. And then we're going to go to Chichen Itza and Uxmal, which are Mayan ruins. So I haven't been to either of those places. So pretty excited about that one. So that's on the 26th. His wife's going too. So it's going to be 5 of us on that one. Jacob didn't want to go until Bobby was going. And and now he wants to go. But now, y'all, praise God, Jacob's on a new medication. And I got my old Jacob back. It's pretty cool. Social anxiety is all but gone. And he's not like Looney Tunes, fuzzy or whatever. He's just like a normal kid again. It's really exciting. So yeah. Yeah. So now maybe he can find a girl. All right, y'all. That's all I got. We'll see you next time. Yes, ma'am.
Persia was 240 years ago.
Mhm.
And Greece is 180.
Mhm.
And then Rome was 330 years.
It's like 600 years.
And we're now in 1500 years for the feet. So why are the feet smaller than everything else? If we don't
Well, it doesn't have to do with the size. No, it has to do with the composition. Yep. All right, online folks, we'll see you next time. Wait, Bonnie says, so interesting. Thanks for helping us engaging through Zoom. Yes, sure. Absolutely. Bye.